Skeena is embarking on a plan of consolidating high-quality assets in Western Canada. Our first acquisition was the Spectrum project. Our second acquisition was the GJ project, which we acquired from Teck and NGX. And now the old Snip mine is our third acquisition, although it's structured as an option agreement with Barrick. Really excited about this particular project because it very much complements our first two acquisitions. More importantly, this is a project that has a long history with our chairman, Ron Netolitzky.
The Snip project was probably one of my first serious ventures in what I'd call the Golden Triangle area of northwest BC. The Snip actually triggered a lot of activity because by the time we started drilling this in the second year and having consistent results, it triggered a revitalization of that whole area we call the Golden Triangle.
It's a major shear zone that goes on for kilometers, and it's intrusive related, just like you see in areas like Silback Premier and Pretium. My background goes to being the project geologist that started the first drill hole on the Snip and took it right through to the mine feasibility stage. So it was a very quick, very busy time, and the project moved along very well and very successfully.
In some ways, I almost feel like it's a reunion tour of the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. We've got Ron and some of the geologists that he worked with back in the 90s who made this discovery, who are coming back together on the Snip property to try to go back in and re-examine what was there from an exploration perspective, but against a backdrop that's much more favorable today than it was in the 1980s and 90s.
There's two styles of gold now that seem to be very popular. You have SK, which was a stratabound volcanic massive sulfide, and you have Snip, which is very similar to the Premier Silback and very similar to other deposits in the area like Brucejack Lake, Pretium, which are shear vein systems associated with porphyry copper and gold systems. And some of the porphyries, especially in northwest BC, are very attractive in the sense they have the highest gold ratios of porphyries anywhere in British Columbia. And if you're going to look for gold copper porphyries, the more gold you have in the porphyry, the juicier it is and the happier everybody gets.
As it turned out, a little over 1 million ounces were mined at 0.88 of an ounce, or 27.5 grams. So it was that consistent high grade that really prompted the decision to go ahead and kept it in production for 8 years.
Just to sort of quickly highlight what's different today versus then, gold prices.
When we started this, gold prices were $380, and by the end of operations, the gold price had dropped to $300. Costs had escalated, so there was a lot of reasons why exploration had terminated, and they basically mined what they had and walked out. It also had very high costs because of location, power, flying out. A large percentage of the concentrate had to be flown out. All of that has changed.
The infrastructure in northwest British Columbia has been substantially improved. We now have roads that are much closer to the old Snip mine, and electricity. The grid has been built out with hydroelectric power very close to the old Snip mine, which previously ran on diesel. So we've got a much lower potential cost environment, and we've got a much higher potential price environment. And then you add to that a great team, the same team that made these discoveries in the past, and I think we have a recipe for success. The other aspect of this is that this is a reclaimed mine that was previously operated by Cominco and then Homestake. Barrick bought Homestake after the Snip mine had already been reclaimed. So this is an asset that is sitting in their portfolio. There's no work being done on it. We approached Barrick and said, would you consider allowing us to go back in and explore? It's really structured as a win-win for both parties. We have an upfront payment of 2 million shares. Then in terms of cash, both parties agreed that cash should go into the ground. So we have a $2 million work commitment over 30 months that will go into the ground. My expectation is we'll probably commit to a larger expenditure than that. At the end of 30 months or before 30 months, We've committed to deliver to Barrick a new resource report based on what we're able to find on the property. We can exercise an option to acquire the project after we've delivered the resource report for $1. The caveat to that is that Barrick has a back-end right into the property. They could spend 3 times what Skeena spends to earn back 51%. That back-end right is contingent on the resource report that we deliver having more than 2 million ounces. Our hope is that Barrick will exercise the back-end right, and that's because we will have discovered more than 2 million ounces. For them to exercise that right, it would definitively be a win for us and a win for them.
You know, I'm very glad to get an opportunity to get back at the Snip because I think it's an area that still has a lot to give. Some of the intersections that I was reviewing recently from some of my reports, it seems odd that we're seeing, you know, tens of grams of gold in isolated intersections that have never been followed up, and it'll be a lot of fun to get back in there and make something out of those intersections.
You know, I think when you look at the district and this type of setting, the cutoff grades that was used at the time of 12 grams, we think we could achieve much lower cutoff grades today, and we could probably mine 10 to 12 gram material.
In terms of what's ahead for Skeena, specifically with the Snip project, we'll be spending the next 2 to 3 months compiling all the data that has come to us from Barrick. So we'll be reviewing the data, and then we'll be designing an exploration program based on that review. The exploration program is likely to start with the basics, geochemistry, trenching, and it will lead to drill holes. I do believe we will have a drill program this upcoming summer, and again, the option period is over the next 30 months, so there'll be a succession of drill programs as we gain a better understanding of the property. So we're pretty damn excited.